Hey everyone, I am doing a live performance today, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so some of you may have seen the video that my friend Adrienne did for me on a hair tissue mineral lab. Or is that what it's called? Hair
Tissue mineral analysis, but yeah.
No, okay. And so we did this kind of in reciprocity. So she is now doing a neuroadrenal lab, which is what I help people with who struggle with mental health issues. So she's allowing us to do this live on the air, and she hasn't really seen this yet. So, all right. Are you ready?
I'm a little nervous, but let's jump in.
All right, let's do it. So first of all, I just wanted to show people, I'm going to hold this up. This is what it looks like when it comes back, a neuroadrenal profile, okay? And so right now, I think I'm up to like 30 pages or, no, not quite, like 20 pages or something. So there's a lot of information in here. We're not going to go over all of that. We're just going to hit the high points. So do you mind if I share the screen with your profile?
Go right ahead.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to do that first so everyone can see what it looks like. Hold on a minute. Oh, okay. I needed to make sure that I removed, vital information that people don't need to see.
Like your baking information.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your Facebook.
Our Facebook logins, all of that stuff. Okay, so this is really weird now. Okay, I'm going to have to stop this recording because I can't, it's not up on the screen share.
What? I hate it when that happens. Is it because it's not up under your screen?
Oh, maybe.
If it's up under your screen, you should be able to find the...
Oh, there it is. Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so you guys should be able to see this. So this is the neurotransmitter part of the lab. This is how it shows up for when I get the lab reports. And so basically it shows all these different neurotransmitters. So serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, which is noradrenaline, epinephrine, which is adrenaline, glutamate, GABA, PEA, which actually goes up above dopamine. I don't know why it's down here so far, glycine and histamine. So what we do is we look at the result number here, and then I usually gauge it against the reference interval. I like the graph because it's nice and pretty, but it doesn't always tell the full story.
Yeah.
So when you look at, well, first of all, I'm going to share that you are a thyroid coach and probably one of the most knowledgeable thyroid coaches that I know, which is why we're doing this together. Yeah. No. And, but this, I was sharing with Adrienne that this is kind of a similar profile to a lot of thyroid or adrenal fatigue type clients that I have. So as a matter of fact, this is probably about as similar to my panel when I first did it 5 years ago.
Very fascinating.
Yes. So when you look at this, so your serotonin is 58.7. The reference interval starts at 60. So you're a little bit below the reference interval range. And we can do that going pretty much all the way down. Okay. So now in my video, she's like, I'm surprised you're upright. And I said, I'm surprised you're upright. So this, oh, my ear hole thing. I got this whole ear hole thing.
She has an ear hole issue.
So what this, if I didn't know Adrienne, I wouldn't know that this would be what her profile is, because she's usually pretty happy-go-lucky and stuff like that, which I am too. So I think we have adaptive, adaptive ways of dealing with it, right? When this becomes kind of your norm, it just is what it is, right? So if I were to just look at this profile, I would say that you are pretty tired, and yeah, you're just pretty tired.
Yeah, I would be accurate.
I was going to say wired, but actually that I was looking at the wrong graphic right here. But so this is kind of telling us this norepinephrine epinephrine ratio, the only high marker you have outside of histamine, and is that these are really not talking to each other. They're really not working together the way that they need to, which means you need those nutrient cofactors in place stronger.
Okay.
which I know that you work a lot on a very clean diet.
Yeah.
And so this is one of those things, guys, like Adrienne does a very clean diet and her profile is still like this, right? So this tells me that we're going to have to do some amino acid supplementation here to help you out. All right. So it doesn't always mean that your diet is crappy, you know?
I mean, the way I think of it or look at it is that I've been so depleted probably for so long and probably since my early teens.
Yes.
That to just add on, those nutrient dense foods is maybe might move the needle, but it's not going to dig me out of the hole.
Well, and who knows? This could be dug out of the hole.
Well, I'm hoping you'll dig me out of the hole, but
yeah. Well,
yeah,
no,
but
what I'm saying is these result numbers could be higher than what they usually were. Who knows? I mean, maybe your diet has actually moved the needle.
Exactly.
We don't know because there wasn't a test before. And so the question I get a lot with this is that, well, how fast is this? Just like one moment in time, one day in time when you did this lab test? And the answer to that is no. That to get a consistent neurotransmitter lab result, it takes a while of change for this to happen. So, so we wouldn't retest this for like a year. Okay, so you work on it for about a year and then retest it at that point if you want to. But I'm going to tell you that most people don't care to retest because once they get it down right and they're feeling better, they don't care. Yeah. You know, they're like, why would I want to do that? I feel
good. Yeah,
I'm good. So, all right. So let's see. We are going to, I'm going to just show everybody. So these are the neurotransmitter comments that come right from the lab. So I put these right in your lab test as well. And then I put together a whole thing. So there are some products that will help raise all of these together. And I got to learn this screen share. I'm going to stop the screen share. Okay, we're back. All right. So what I do is then I go through all of this and I put together a amino acid recommendation. And so there's a product that I would use. It's called NeuroLink. And so NeuroLink kind of touches on all the major amino acids. So it will have a little 5-HTP in there. It will have GABA in there. It will have tyrosine in there. So it'll move those needles up in pretty much in all categories, which is really what you're looking for without having to take 5 different things.
Yeah, that's handy. Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. So that's the thing. Like there are some good amino acid blends out there, but a lot of them don't have high enough milligrams to make a difference. So I see people bring in, I'm taking this, and it's got like 300 milligrams of tyrosine in it. Someone who is depleted in, let's say, tyrosine, and tyrosine helps build your dopamine, which is your concentration, your focus, your motivation, your drive, your energy, all of that. 500 milligrams isn't going to do the trick. You're going to need something in the thousands of milligrams, you know? Yep. So I outlined that all individually for people and where to start. I'm not going to say it in this video because everyone's individual and I don't want people to go back saying, well, she said all of this and that's what we're going to do.
It happens.
Got it. I know. Oh, I should have done the disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor, yo. All right. I'm a psychotherapist that happens to do some pretty cool functional labs and help people with their brain health. So anyway, and then the other issue that Adrienne marked was her sleep. So we can also, especially in thyroid and adrenal patients, like it's like you're tired, but you're wired. When you lay down, you can't fall asleep, you know, even though I remember for myself, it was a thing that I would dream about from 2 o'clock on, like, oh, if I could just go home and put on my pajamas and go to bed. And I would lay in bed with my eyes open, like, why can't I shut my brain off? You know? And part of that is in part due to the neurotransmitter imbalances that we're seeing on your profile. The other part would be things like making sure your blood sugar is stabilized. And so when we think of neurotransmitter pathways, it has a lot to do with protein. It has a lot to do with the foods that we eat. So amino acids come in all different food forms, but protein is the biggest one. Animal protein is the bigger one. All right. So there are ways to do it if you're a vegetarian, but mostly animal proteins for this reason. So, but amino acids starting at the top of the chain help build serotonin, help build dopamine, help build GABA and glutamate, you know. So if you're not eating enough and your blood sugar is not stable, you're going to have trouble building those neurotransmitter levels up. So, and blood sugar is extremely stressful on the brain and on the body.
And the thyroid.
And the thyroid and the adrenals and the whole system. So if you guys do nothing else that are listening, focus on stabilizing your blood sugar and you're going to feel much better just doing that.
I support that.
Thank you. Nice.
I can eat protein all day long, so I'm
I can too. It's so easy to do.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because I can eat it all day long, but I do know when you're working on things, it's kind of like not drinking water and then drinking a lot of water, you know, like now I drink a lot of water. So if I'm only at 6 or 7 cups, I feel dehydrated.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Same thing happens with blood sugar. When you're working on stabilizing your blood sugar and you get to the point where you're like, I know how to stabilize it. When you're not stable, you know it. Like, I just feel like it's like this feeling in my body, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just going to kind of quickly move through your report for everyone. Then I also go through and I list, because I like essential oils, so I list some essential oils that might be impacting your neurotransmitter levels. For instance, grapefruit impacts serotonin quite nicely. It's actually one of the essential oils that impacts serotonin in the largest way. So you are low in serotonin, so you could consider a grapefruit or a grapefruit blend. Citruses are very good for uplifting, and if you need to wind down, like a vetiver or rooty or large tree, an essential oil from a large tree will be very grounding for you before bedtime. So I put all that in these reports so people can see, and I put in some nice little recipes as well.
Yeah, I love that there's the recipes, because I think, like, sure, you can give me all the oils in the world, but I'm not really going to know what to do with them. I do have a diffuser.
Nice.
And I've never done blends before. Like, if I get, beef oil or eucalyptus, I just put eucalyptus in and call it good
job
until the water's done, and then I might change to a different scent. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with working with essential oils.
And I look at essential oils as we have complicated the crap out of it. Like, and I jokingly say, like, I work in my oil lab. And so I think people think I have like beakers and, pipettes and all this stuff. I don't. I literally go drop, 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 drop. I try to keep it as easy as possible. And even in my diffuser bedside, people are always like, how many drops of this do I put in there? I'm like, I have no idea. I just go blah, 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 blah. Probably not the best way to do it, but I feel like it's
that's how I cook. People like, give me the recipe. I'm like, I don't know.
I feel like it's the realistic way to do it. That's, I'm all about being realistic. So anyway, so then I talk about nutrient cofactors. So every I'm going to switch over to the pathway one. So let's do this. So people can see this. All right. I'm going to share my screen since I figured that part out. There we go. All right, guys. So here's what a neurotransmitter pathway looks like. So I'll just kind of focus over here on the serotonin pathway. So as you can see up at the top, tryptophan helps make 5-HTP down to serotonin. Serotonin then makes melatonin, which helps you sleep. So a lot of people who have sleep problems go straight for melatonin, right? So they're going straight to the bottom of the chain. My philosophy is, why don't we start up at the top? Usually I start with 5-HTP because people tend to respond better to that. But why don't we start at the top and then see if we can get this whole thing working together? All right. So then your body can naturally do its thing, do what it's designed to do. And so when you look at this neurotransmitter pathways, we're just going to focus on the words in the red. These are called nutrient cofactors. And so you have things like P5P, which is activated B6, iron, vitamin D, There's probably a methylated folate in here somewhere. But most of these are your B vitamins, your vitamin D, and magnesium is in here as well. So if you're having trouble with serotonin levels being low, or really dopamine as well, you're also going to want to make sure that you have some of these good nutrient cofactors in there. So this is kind of the importance of why vitamins are important. And a lot of times we won't get this fully in our nutrition. So like Adrienne's is a really good example. She's very good with her food, but yet we still have to get these pathways talking. We still have to get them going so she can feel better. All right. So
I think too, like when I look at that and I see iron, and iron is one of my arch nemesis in a way, because it's really hard for me to increase my iron, and to take an iron supplement is incredibly painful for me. So I actually use a thing called a blood enhancer. So it's I'm not taking iron, but I'm taking something that's helped boost my body's ability to have red blood cells.
Yeah.
So that's the best way that's been for me. But I look at that and I say, well, yeah, I bet my iron deficiency could be contributing, to that.
Well, and it's important. So you raise a valid concern, like taking the forms of vitamins that are the most bioavailable and that work best for you is really important. And so, don't just go out and buy them. Talk to somebody that can help guide you and to know what's the best form for you. There's a lot of companies out there that are like, we have the best, we have the best, we have the best. And I'm like, they might for some people.
Yeah.
But not for all people, so you have to find what works best for you. And so let's say you're somebody that has some severe gut health issues, like a celiac or Crohn's disease or something like that. Like your vitamins you might be better served with something topical, that you don't have to digest or go through the whole digestive process, or at least something that you can start absorbing more in your mouth.
Yeah, like a sublingual.
Yeah, sublingual. So that's why, everybody is different. Everybody's needs are a little bit different. So you need to talk about what works for you best, All right, I'm going to stop the screen share on that one. All right. Okay. And so then what I do is I go through a lot of information about stress reduction and some dietary changes. So some of the biggest dietary changes for everyone always are like eliminating sugars and alcohol and caffeine. And most of that is due to blood sugar regulation. Caffeine is due to it being a stimulant. So if you have anxiety and you are drinking boatloads of caffeine, you might have more anxiety. Or if you're drinking caffeine to stay awake, you're probably not going to be able to sleep at night. So then we have this weird cyclical problem that we're creating and we can't get out of. So increasing water, restoring blood sugar, eliminating things like gluten, dairy, eggs, and nuts. But what I want people to know is you don't have to do all of the things every time and be perfect at it, because if I expect perfection, I'm not perfect. Like I pick one thing and kind of stick to that, and then I'll try to change something else versus doing it all and then giving up on it. So if we start somewhere, that's better than starting nowhere,
Picking one and get really good at that one.
Right. Exactly.
And then once it becomes second nature, like going gluten-free, it's second nature.
Right. Yeah.
And then you can be like, well, now I'll tackle the dairy, which is, we've had this conversation.
It's so hard. It's been so hard. But yeah, you have to start somewhere. And I think that probably comes from my therapy background, knowing that you kind of have to meet people where they are, instead of, looking at them and saying you basically have to change everything about what you're doing. And I'd be like, yeah, I can't do that. That feels too overwhelming. So I give you a lot of information, and we can start picking and choosing the things that you want to try and the things that you want to incorporate or not into your life. Okay.
Can we go back to the graph when it talked about histamine?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that,
find it.
Does that imperative for anything to know about? Or I just say, yeah, I've got a high response to histamine and call it good?
Yes and no. So histamine, I'm trying to find your graph here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is weird because in your graph, it's not even talking about your histamine. Oh, they didn't put your histamine in the high range.
Oh, okay.
No. But histamine again also can have to do with gut health.
Mm.
So those are some markers that you can look at, and there's also foods that are higher in histamine that you can look at.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's sky high, but yours is not, remember when I said that graph isn't always the best accurate
Okay.
look at it. I think your level is 38. They're looking at high as being in the 40s. So you're close, but so you might want to check out some food and maybe check out some gut health information as well on your histamine.
And then the creatinine. Now, I understood that to be
that's just a marker on here. That's
okay.
Not what you're thinking it is.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So for this, it talks about, it's just about the marker. I think it's
okay.
Here. Yeah, it's not meant to be used as an indicator of renal function.
Okay.
On this lab. So don't worry about that.
Okay.
Were you freaking out?
No. I just was going to have questions about how that was related to neurotransmitters because, going back to my veterinary days, and of course, most cats tend to be, really renal failure. That's how they always go. So very, very familiar with, those enzymes that are involved with the kidneys.
Right. So no, it has nothing to do with renal function for this lab.
Excellent.
Okay. All right. So in here, I talk about what to do as far as vagal nerve tone, and vagus nerve has a lot to do with your stress, your ability to fight stress. So there's tons of fun stuff in here, like gargling or gagging. And I talk about the vagus nerve, like gagging. I know.
So take some apple cider vinegar.
Oh yeah, that would help. That would help for me, right?
Yeah.
The way I look at it is, if you're under stop with the apple cider. Anyway, if you're under a large amount of stress, basically you're not engaging your vagus nerve, which is your calm side of your nervous system, right? So it would be your parasympathetic side. Right. So it's kind of like, if you're under stress, it's kind of like going to the gym and only working on your biceps. And if you only worked on your biceps, your legs are going to get real skinny real fast. Like you didn't work it out all in a balanced way. And that's what happens when our body believes it's under stress all the time. So engaging your vagus nerve is going to be imperative in your overall stress management routine, which, so part of it was, you've heard of like monks and they do om, like, so that's a lot in the back of the throat, so vagus nerve goes from your brainstem all the way down, and it literally touches everything from your eyes to your throat to your heart to your lungs to your bowels. So there's nerves that just kind of does all that and touches all of that, which makes a lot of sense, because if you are highly anxious, you might have an upset stomach or diarrhea, things like that, or a heart that palpitates, right?
Yes.
So if we can learn to calm that down, you're going to be way better off. And those are easy things to do. When I look at stress management, I think everyone thinks you got to go to the gym for an hour, for stress management. And I'm like, or, you could go to the bathroom and gargle. Seems easier. I don't know.
I can do that.
Exactly.
A lot cheaper.
It is. And
I don't have to buy fancy clothes for it.
Exactly. And it's a lot faster too. So yeah, I think we have overdone the stress management type thing, self-care. I think we've made it into this gigantic thing that it doesn't have to be, To me, self-care, the very basic of self-care is just blood sugar balance, really. If you want to feel better.
Yeah, because I was going to say, sleep and breathing is huge.
Yeah.
Which probably all stems from
the vagus nerve.
Stabilize blood sugar.
Yeah. Oh, yes, exactly. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're wide awake, it's because your adrenaline is kicked in because you've had low blood sugar. Right. So if that's happening to you, anybody that's listening, eat a protein snack. Okay. Then in the end, what I do is I actually put together a little protocol, and that tells her what to take and what to, and when to take it. But this is based on my opinion. And so usually what I say is, what are the times of day you either feel the most anxious, or what are the times of day that you have the least amount of energy? In her case, it would be energy fatigue, right? I would think the time that you're the most tired. And that's when you would put in some of these amino acids that improve energy, like tyrosine or even the Neurolink. Okay, so I've laid that all out for you on this, and also put in a bedtime one that will help improve some melatonin for you as well.
Okay.
So that is pretty much this in a nutshell. So when we go off of this, you and I will chat a little bit, because that wasn't exactly what I do. Guys, I'm going to tell you, I spend a lot more time with people on this than, I don't even know how long we've been doing it, 30 minutes, going over step by step by step, because it's a lot of information to absorb and to digest. But it is really good information, because if you've struggled for a long time with symptoms of mental health or just fatigue, like understanding why it's happening in your body right now is extremely important. And there's a lot of functional labs that can assist. And this is one of them, the neuroadrenal lab. And I have had great success with this. And I will say, once you start on a protocol that works for you, you will feel better in typically 2 to 4 weeks of doing the protocol. And to me, that's very important, because people want to feel better faster. And medication often doesn't help you feel better that fast. Blah, I can't speak.
Well, and also aids in depleting, those.
Absolutely. There's actually a little spot in here about what medication does to neurotransmitters, because over time it can either push it really high or aid in depleting. And the other part is that psychology is the only profession that doesn't look under the hood. So it's the only profession that you walk into a doctor's office and give them a constellation of symptoms, and then they prescribe or tell you what's wrong with you based on what you say, right? You would never go to the doctor's office and say, I think I broke my arm. And the doctor says, well, here's a checklist. Why don't you go through the checklist to find out if your arm is broken? And you go, okay. And you go through the checklist, and because your bone is not sticking out, and that was on the checklist, your arm is no longer broken, right? Mm-hmm. That's not a real thing. They would say, let's take an x-ray. Let's look inside. But in psychology, we go, well, here's a checklist. Let me get out my big book, and we're going to go through all the things that you say, and we're going to diagnose you based on what you're telling me only. So at least a lab like this gives us a chance to kind of look under the hood and see what's happening. Now, you can take these labs to your doctors. I've had clients do that. So sometimes the serotonin will be very high in a lab like this, and that can cause serotonin syndrome, which is not good. So you would want your doctor to know that, so they wouldn't prescribe you something that impacts your serotonin, which is what most people get, So that's why a lab like this I think is extremely important. And so I would encourage most people who struggle in any way to do a lab like this.
I would too. All thyroid patients should be doing hair tissue mineral analysis and neurotransmitter adrenal. What do you call it? Sorry.
I just call it a neuroadrenal lab. Now
neuroadrenal. Okay.
You didn't do the adrenal part because I think your
I'd
lab
already been tested. Yeah.
You'd already been tested, and I think your lab can do that as well. The hair tissue mineral analysis. Yeah. So, I mean, either way, figure that part out. But at least this would be a great combination lab for people to do if you're a thyroid patient.
Yeah. Agreed.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in and listening to us. And we're gonna keep the discussion going about this, because I think it's really important for people to have well-informed choices and have lots of options to feel better faster. So, all right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, this is Adrienne Klein, the thyroid whisperer over there, and I'm Dr. Teralyn. You can find me at drteralyn.com and check out my podcast, kickoffyourdamnheels.com, and check out Adrienne's podcast. What's your podcast?
Grass-Fed Gingers.
The Grass-Fed Gingers. All right, everybody. Thank you and take care.